Good morning or good afternoon, where you guys are from. Yeah, we did have a brief talk about who is here. Are there anyone from Australia, New Zealand, or anything like that? Just put it into the chat. I would like to hear if I'm actually able to, if this is too late for you guys or not. So let's see. Cool. Yes, thank you for joining this this morning. I'm really looking forward to show you some of these things, and I'm trying to call it speed up your SAP integration. It's obviously not about making the I guess it's a little meta. You have the speed of how long time it takes to run the integration, but also about the development process. And we're just focusing on the development process. We cannot really do much about how the SAP systems work. So we have built a tool that makes it easier to do PI, CPI, and API management, and just govern transport, test, and all these kind of things. So that's what this is about, and how you can actually deliver SAP integrations faster with these kind of tools. So what I'll take you through today is why you need to make a lot more integrations. What are the different areas that you can improve in? We'll cover the support process, the development workflow, and I guess this is more like the governance workflow, what's actually a part of this. Then we will talk about how to install, pricing, roadmap, and we'll go through a Q&A. And after the Q&A, I will just show you how simple it is actually to install the system, try it out, and run it on your own system. So let's get started. So whenever I talk with any integration developers, it seems like they don't have that much time. I don't know if that resonates with you, but there's quite a number of different projects going on that you need to be a part of, deliver on these things. And I would imagine that you got a lot more integration projects going on. And so my goal is to just show you how you can save 20% of your time for doing integration. Hopefully it will be even more. But if you could save 1 day's work a week, it would be pretty useful, and you'd be able to deliver on these other integrations that you have. So common problem with SAP integration, it's in the SAP PI world, I guess nothing really had happened that makes the workflow work other than like an old waterfall approach where you deliver something in predefined batches. It's not the agile development that's going on. A lot of time you have a lot of your development outsourced to partners, and sometimes it can be difficult managing this. Yeah, because too large of an organization, you don't know what they're doing, and you're just maybe approving some transport or just checking out that they've done everything correctly. When we saw CPI and saw some of the pre-delivered content, my initial thought was, well, we will not have to deliver as much integration, but I see now that even though you're getting some pre-delivered content that allows you to run things faster, you would still have to create a lot of your own integrations, and that takes a lot of time. Documentation and auditing is a pretty manual process. So a lot of places where I've been worked is yeah, you had to fill in a lot of documents in different places, dump them somewhere, and then hopefully if something happened, people could go back and see what was going on. And yeah, we can see right now that a lot of people are still struggling and figuring out planning a 7.5 upgrade, and I think that is just because the amount of upgrades and everything like that is too challenging. So there are some areas where you can actually do some improvements in this place, and where automation is possible. Development is obviously probably the biggest thing in this. I think the integration content advisor methodology, or integration content advisor, seems like an okay idea on improving some of these things, but obviously for now it seems like it's limited to some B2B scenarios, some simpler processes. So let's see how that evolves. You got obviously a big part about testing and how do you automate and regression test and everything like that. You have governance taking place, and this is all this thing about creating documents, managing the transport, and handling all these things. And then monitoring support is hugely critical. How do you make it possible for people to do these kind of things? And then migration. I did a webinar a couple of weeks ago, and let me just, if you're planning a webinar or if you're planning a migration, you can watch this. Oh, that's not there. Everyone, you can watch this this video and see what we can actually do with migration of PI to PO in that perspective. So I think when you're doing migration, obviously it makes sense to understand how the complexity is, and then understand, is this something you can just move, or will it actually make sense to redeliver it and build it in CPI, because CPI is a different platform and it has some different capabilities that you will not find in the old PO world. So let's start with the support. Over Christmas, or just before Christmas, one of my clients said, hey, one of our guys is away, could you handle the support for us in this period of time? And I was like, okay, so how do you do that? Well, we log in every day and just check everything is okay, all the iFlows is not in red or anything like that. And it's like, okay. And then I created this campaign about Figaf Saves Christmas, about giving people a way to monitor systems a lot easier. So the idea is that a lot of times these alerts is the same thing that happens again and again, and if you already have found a way for people to solve these problems, there's no need that they go through this process again and again and figure out, how do we actually solve this? So it's about making sure that it works as simple as possible. So what the tool is able to do, it works on both PI message alerts, where it's able to pick up component-based message alerts. It works on CPI flows, where we can set up rules that says if message is in failed, or if message is error receiver, or then it will download that iFlow and have all of the alert capabilities of that. For an API management, we're using the key value store as like a temporary store. We can put in data and then we can pull it out and set up these kind of rules. And we are able to set up rules with XPath, and I guess all of you know how to create an XPath and know what the ability of these is. So once you have found a set up rule, you can set a notification, who should it send to, an email, a webhook. So you can send a webhook and then send that webhook to Jira. One of the cool capabilities is you can mute similar alerts. So if you're getting the same alert within 10 minutes or an hour, you don't want to get information that this specific server is down. You just want to get it once. maybe every hour, and then it has abilities to reprocess some of the flow. So let me just show you what this is able to do. So here we have the Figaf tool. It's a Java application that you can run either on your laptop for proof of concept, but obviously in larger setting you can run it in a server or in a cloud, or you can run it with our cloud environment. Here we have some support properties, and we have set up here some rules that says here is if status equals failed, then do something on these things. And let me just send another message in with an error. And so it normally will just download these messages every 5 minutes or whatever you specify. But since we don't want to wait 5 minutes, we will just label here. We can see we just got a new message. It was triggered or accepted by this specific rule. We can go in and see the details on this. So here we got all information about this specific rule. We can say it is handled, or we can update the status to done. If there's nothing more we can actually do on it, if there was attachments or anything like that, we would be able to see them here. And let me just show you the rule I just simply created. So here we can see the rule. We can see that it's just giving it a title. It has a step number, and the way all of these XPaths would then be evaluated one by one for each of these alert consumers. Once it finds an alert that match, it will say, okay, now I have found this. And we'll set the status to done. We will, if in some cases we have the option to do reprocessing, in CPI you need to do something special, add some special scripting steps. In PI worlds, we can obviously resend messages a number of times and stuff like that. We have, if we need to send attachments, we can test what the message would look like if we sent this. And we have the option to extract payloads into this. We can send it to email or to the webhook. And let me just show you the alert here. So the list of rules looks like this. It can be a little challenging to just read what the different rules are, but here you would be able to see what are the different messages or different alerts. You'd give them some titles, and you'd have this description that says, if you receive this message, this is how you're fixing it. So I think that would really, or that is something that really saves up this processing. And I don't know if I actually showed you this, but we do have this option here that says mute for a specific period of time. So you can actually see if that is something that is working. Any questions on this alert? Just put them into the chat. I hope you can see that one. So yeah, so you can restart if it's a PI message. You can just debut. Yeah, so here we have PI message, PI rules that we have set up. Here we can just say reprocess this for a number of time, and then it has a different yeah, you can set it up to reprocess this specific message a number of times, and once it does that, it will terminate. Yeah, so runtime workbench monitoring, but I think that the challenge, at least what I've seen with normal component-based message alerting, it's really difficult to set up for specific rules, and you need to create the different text and send it, and that makes it somewhat challenging. So let me see, Philippa, the channels that comes with an error, we are also able to fetch them. So actually, so they would also be processed with the specific rule set. So here we can see we got a component based for a channel ID that does not exist and stuff like that. So we're getting that. Let me see if I'm following along. So the way the Figaf tool works, it is a Java application you download. You can run it up and start it on your laptop, but preferably I recommend to run it on some kind of a server. It just needs a Java 8. We're considering moving to other Java versions. It will then listens on the component-based message alert, download the messages, or if it's CPI, download it from there and run it in it. So it's not installed on a PI system. When we are doing that, we have our list of agents, which is systems that we connect to. So for PI, the only thing you need to install an agent on is for testing. And when we're doing testing, it will add some modules to the processing chain, and you'll be able to fit the payload there. And here you can just add all the different components to set it up. Let's see, Archer. Yes, so you would get a lower noise, and you would of alerts, and you will only get the so a lot of times I've seen when we have, for instance, EDI Scenario or something like that, it's something that this order does not have a specific or some specific master data. Then a PI developer needs to figure out who he needs to send this to, send it and say, hey, we received this order, cancel it, and with this you can just say, hey, send this alert, specify that this order ID is failed because this material or something like that on line item something is missing, please update it and send it again, and then PI would never actually be involved in this, or the integration team. So we do have a cloud application to run for running for CPI. Go to figaf.com/EDI cloud. Then you can run it on our system but obviously we cannot connect to your backend PI system there, so that makes that a little challenging, and that's why we have that other option. And some customers would then take the application and run it in Asia or whatever it is, because it's sometimes easier to get data there. Are there any of the questions I missed, and just add them again? But yeah, my main goal of this was this about making it simpler to process these things. Yes, so yeah, it is passing the alerts itself, understanding what it is, and when you're adding this rule, for instance, to PI, you will just say, hey, everything should just go to this Figaf tool, and then it can pick out and set up the processing of these messages there. It cannot run on a cloud. Yeah, we have done a few tests trying to run it on Cloud Foundry, and I guess that would be the preferred way to run it if you want to run it in SAP data center. We do recommend that, or you can use the Postgres database from whatever provider you have as a way to handle this. So Albert, we run it currently with PI, CPI, and API management. if there's other tools or processes that would make sense where we could create something similar, we're open to that. So yeah, we are considering if we need to create some custom adapters or integrations for these things. So how does this differentiate from Solution Manager? And I think the biggest way is it is simple to set up. A lot of times, obviously, with the PI Solution Manager, it takes them some time to install. The other thing that is this about setting up the filtering, the muting. I don't think that the Solution Manager would do that. It will just give you all the different alerts, and you would see what is going on in that perspective. So it is about simplify the process. It's obviously not a monitor for PI. So you cannot see what is going on in the PI. You can just see all the alerts. For CPI, we do have the option to set up some different tiles. So let's just see if we got an interesting none. So we have, so on a tile you can set up that you have, for instance, a finance and HR tile. On this you can specify what are the different iflows that users should be able to see there. And what you can then go around is you can go around, see what is actually being processed here. You can see the payloads of this. So this is just a way that users would be able to to see this this data. So Solution Manager does not have full drill down to exception itself, so it is not possible to set up rules based on the exception. Okay, so yeah. So Solution Manager will just see you got this alert. I guess you can do, if you're specifying multiple alert component-based methods, alert receivers, but that is going to be a big hassle of understanding, and that's also the reason why I think this makes a lot of sense, because you just have one way to handle it. Thank you, Laddie. And yeah, then we also do some performance monitoring on the CPI system, so you can see how well it performs, how many messages, and if the latency is above something, you will then get a notification. Good. So I think that was all on the support part. Yeah, basically it's pretty simple to install, getting started and run, and I think that is, yeah, and this thing about adding new rules for specific cases. One thing we're just adding is the ability, because a lot of time when you're receiving a CPI alert, I don't know if I have any, it will contain some specific information that this host name, and if you're connecting to SuccessFactors, it is this host name with this URL has these problems, and then you have a port name that changes every time, and that becomes a little difficult actually monitor. So I don't know if we have any here. No, we don't have any call to HTTP. So we're trying also to make a simplified version of this that is easier to match. So it will just give you without host names, without ports and everything like that. So it's easier to match messages into. Cool. That was all I wanted to do on alert. I hope you can see how this could reduce the work in a CPI environment, or PI or API management. If we talk about API management, it is pretty difficult to monitor unless you set up some external tool to handle the monitoring in, because CPI will just say you got a 405 error and a 500 error, but not really what these are. And what we have done here is we have made it simple, so you can just select an iflow, an IPA proxy, say I want to monitor messages on this, it will send the messages into this component-based message alert or the key value store, and we can download it and run the same kind of rules on them. So next is the development flow, and this is where we want to make it as simple as possible to take some development artifacts that you have created, understand what's been created, what's the business reason why you have created this, run tests on it, configure it, deploy it. So it's something like this we want to show. So I guess let's just go to the demo and show you how it works. So I'm back here in the tool. We have this change tracking tool, and the change tracking tool is something. Now I'll just look at CPI, but it does the same thing for all the different platforms. And what it does is it continuously download all the different messages, all the different iFlows, all the different artifacts that you have. It will then do versioning of this, so you can see we got some different versions, and if you want to check out what was changed between some different versions, we can view here. We have made a simplified BPM model because it sometimes can be a little difficult to actually see what was changed in an iFlow. And here we can see it is in this content modifier call activity that we have a change here, and this makes the process a lot simpler about understanding what has been changed. So we did this change obviously because someone asked us to do it. So that was a business requirement. So the business requirement new we can tie it to a specific release if we are doing bigger things, like bigger project. We can say who is assigned to it, who is supposed to do it, what type of development, and so we have development and migration. Obviously migration is more if you do a migration project, and then we need to select the landscape, and this is not going to reviewer admin, we wanted that one. And then we can put in the Jira number or ServiceNow or whatever. So we've created this this iFlow or this flow to make it simple for users to actually run and manage transports. And now I've actually documented that for this specific case, for this Jira ticket, I've made a change in this, and that means if someone go back to view this, they can see all the different versions of this. They can see here there's actually this this ticket that was assigned to it, so they can go back and forth and see everything that was changed here. So you got this visibility on what was changed. We obviously want to test this, and since we started out with a testing tool, we have a pretty good testing solution. We can obviously add these iFlows to it. So that means all these test cases from it, and we can obviously enhance it, run all the different iFlows we have. We can say we want to run this on a specific tenant. So we can run it either on our QA or whatever to just see what we're getting of result. So now so the way we're testing with CPI is we're switching the iFlow into trace mode because that's the least invasive. It will then see that on this iFlow we have these specific messages. Yeah, all the different steps, so it will download all the different steps. You can then go into this, and now we can see some of these messages has been processed. We can see the details, all the different messages that is in this. So if we refresh here, we can go back, we can see view the result, and we can see a lot of errors because there was a different in the comparison. So we just check here diff. There was added some new fields here, and I think there was also, yeah, so this new field was only in the tested version. So with this, I know what specifically was changed in this new release. So you can see everything that handles here. And then does this ticket system integrate with any, other tools? At the moment, no. We are expecting to add webhooks to it, so whenever someone is changing the status of this, closing it, it will send a webhook, and also the other way around, you will have some APIs that you can call and get data about these things. But the idea for now it will never replace your existing ticketing system, but just be a place that collect all the information relevant for this specific test or this specific flow. So we have a couple of different options to send and test these things in. If we go here, we can open our test suite. We have so we have we can send with mock data, and that's really useful. So for all of these different test suites we have, we can send it with mock data, and the way that works is it will when you're doing that, it will create a copy of the iFlow and install, instead of calling the whatever SuccessFactors system, it will call the Figaf ERT tool, get the data back that it is supposed to get from that adapter, and that way you would simulate that everything works. And it can obviously run with Cloud Connector, so that would also work. So that's the and yeah, if for CPI, if the message is something that is not startable or anything like that, we can also create a copy of the iFlow and test it with that. So if you have a scheduled event, we can also so it will create a copy of the scheduled event, send a trigger message to it that looks like the original start message, and then it will process the flow. And yeah, if it is SuccessFactors or anything like that where you cannot really replay it, you have this option to send mock data to the Figaf system instead. So all messages in all steps will send it to the Figaf system instead. I hope those two make sense. Otherwise, do raise your voices again. So now we've tested this. Obviously, we've found some errors in this, and we can go through here. So we will view our results. We will then say, okay, now this is what we expect because we have made this change, and we know that this is correct, and we can run it again, and it will then give us success for this. Yes, so we also do testing the same flow with SAP PI. Obviously, the way we're doing PI testing is a little different. We can get to that in the next demo. But the idea is just to have one generic flow that allow you to create and run test cases on. Let me just. Yes, so now we've tested, everything is good, something like it. Now we want to transport this in our landscape, and yeah, how do we actually do that? And I think that is something where we have a pretty good advantage of what SAP has. So we have the landscape here, it's called CPI, and here we can see the different tenants in the system. We have the option here to go in on these objects, and then we can specify what are the different configuration parameters that exist in this, and what is it on our next system. And this one was one I just added, so we can just also add it here. If there's password, it will give us a warning saying, hey, on your QA system you do not have this OData password, so please be aware of that. And it will do some checking and see everything works. But for now, we don't care about that. It will obviously be something that an architect or whoever's in charge will need to understand or check. So now we have the created our transport, everything's good. I as a developer will then say, hey, send it to approval. And because I'm also approver, I can approve it. If I was not approver, the approver guys would get an email saying, hey, you got a new transport that you need to approve. We can approve it, saying, or we can reject it if we want to, but then you will just go back and you need to recreate everything. So I'll just say cool. It's been changed, and now we can see we got the option to do import. We don't have two CPI systems, so we enabled us to just have a virtual test system that allows us to actually send in messages again to the same iFlow, or so it will create an iFlow in a similar package on the system, and that will allow us actually to do testing on this this approach. So now we have imported it, I would assume, if I did not refresh here. So synchronization required, so it will also download all the content and ensuring that everything like that. So what we've done is we have automated the whole configuration parameters, but obviously you would still need to check if what parameters need to change and what is different every time. If you are not making any changes to the parameters, obviously you do not need to change these different kind of things. So we can see it's imported successful, and then we are getting this alert that the password was not found. If we create it, it will then go away. But now we have all this information. When we are doing PI work, or right now this iFlow is being deployed, I would hope. So if we go to our CPI system, and then we can see this one is just deployed. I don't know if we can actually see the configuration parameters here, but if we go to that specific iFlow, we can obviously find it and view the configuration in that perspective. So it really simplifies that process. Let me see here. And for PI, it's the same thing. You would specify for this communication channel, the host, the port, the username, password is this in production, and then you would not need to do anything about that next time when you import it. And right now for this transport, I do not have the option to change this thing. So once the architect has approved it, this stays locked, and if you then want to make a modification to it, you will just reject the transport, create a new one, configure everything, or change the configuration, and then you can actually run it in that way. I don't understand. So with we are not able to for CPI self-develop adapter, we can obviously not handle that. But for with the external configuration, it obviously does not matter what you have in it. But you would obviously still need for CPI to deploy iFlows for PI, you would still need to deploy adapters and modules manually. We do not support that. Okay, yeah. Let's just see if we get time also to do it on the PI level. So there is an iFlow comparer, and it's not here. So you can go here, and as I showed you here, we have. Let's just see if we get. So here now we have updated. We have our QA here. We can see what the difference between the two versions we have. We have the standard BPM model, and then we have our simplified model. And the simplified model, we have tried to remove all these different things that does not make sense. And here we can see that this section was added. So we are reusing the same comparison type for that. So with self-developed adapters, it's also able to pick up these contents. One thing we're not able to do is have a generic format to specify what is called transportable and non-transportable. So you would have to. We'll have to either help you and specify what these things are, or we will find a way to extend it so you can just say this is the manual properties on this flow. So let me just see. Yes, so the last thing you want to do here is, so now we have done everything. We will set it to resolved, and now we would also expect that it will trigger an event that will update Jira, and what it will send Jira is this report, or link to this report, or whatever that will work. And this then contains information about what is it that we have done, who has created it, what are the different objects that we have configured, what are the test cases that we have run, how did these test cases perform, and here obviously you would expect that all of these are green, and here we can see those new properties added and everything like that. So here you got all information about if anything was wrong, and then we can see the reports that was going on in this case. So any other questions on this? So we transport individual iFlows because I think that makes more sense, because in most scenarios you have, or if you have a support case, if you have new deployment, you are asked just to specify to transport an individual iFlow. One thing we do not support at the moment is transport of packages, or maintenance of these information about packages. So the packages in your QA system will not contain the documents and everything like that, but it's definitely something we will be adding for it. What do you mean with iFlows if you're not using iFlows? Or for PIs, and let's take that one later. So for PI, we don't really care about the iFlows. Well, the main object in the PI is still the ICO, because that is where you get most information. So that was what we did with CPI. So if we just look at the PI process, we obviously want to reuse and make it as simple as possible to handle all these different kind of things. So let me just show you how we're creating test cases in the PI world. So we'll select our PI agent. We can select multiple. So here we can select all of these. We can record these to a new test case that's called demo. We can specify the number of messages, what information we have about this message. We can either just say this is a demo, so we know what these are. We can specify XPath, or yeah, we have some other option to select also. And what it will then do is it will create a recording or a test suite with all of these information. So you can create a test suite for finance, for HR, or order processing, whatever. We will just say start, and what this will do is there's also a lot of different ways we're recording. The best approach we have for recording is to go in on the communication channel, edit these, add modules, and we'd add the Figaf ET module, which is a simple module that will see should I record this message or not, and if it does that, it will put it into a GMS queue, and then the Figaf tool will pick out all these messages from the GMS queue, put them into the tool, and then you'll be able to download it. We also have an option where you don't need to install anything, where it will just look in the ICO, or it will use the component base or the SAP PI adapter module for logging. So that's also an option. So now we can see we have actually received a message here, and what we can then do is we can create a test case for that. We can see that this exists on multiple different systems. We don't care about that. So we'll just take this. Now we have created a test case, and just as with PI, this test case then contains some inbound messages and some outbound messages. So we can see all the content of this here. We have some message anonymization. So if you select a payload, we can go and obfuscate the incoming message with some random data, and have some templates to put in names and stuff like that. So you would get real values in it, but not the original one. So so you can test even if it is confidential data, and then it will just expect, hey, we don't have any output message of this. This is what we would expect. So now we have done that change, or we have created a test case. We have made some changes on it. So let me just find this. Oh. DPO. Multi-sender ICO. So here we have our ICO. So let's just take that one. We will assign it to a ticket. You cannot have PI and CPI because they are in two different landscapes. So we will just create it here, but obviously they can be assigned to the same release. We will need to select DPO. Let's see, sorry, this one. We can also put our geo number in here. So now we have our tool here. We can go in and say, okay, we just want to transport the ICO, or we want to attach all the dependent objects of this, where it will then get communication channels, ICOs, everything like that from this specific message. So all the dependent objects, we can see if we look up test cases here, it will say, okay, based on these objects, these are the test cases that we have. And we can then run these on a specific system. And with the PI, we don't need to pull messages because we're getting these automatically once they're being processed. So let's see if they are already processed. View results. So we can see some errors. We can go and view the difference, and we can see here it is actually a new line that has been added to the document. And yeah, so we can go in, we can specify that a specific element does not really matter, and we don't want to see it as an error. So the way we're testing is that we will add these modules to the module chain. So that means you will get all module chains in and everything like that. If you just want to have, if you want to use the SAP standard module, we can also log on the incoming and the outgoing message. So I guess, yeah, these two different flags or whatever. And then you'll get, with the ICO logging, you can also get these information. And then it can just look back in time and see whenever you had messages that worked on this scenario. But I do recommend the using the Figaf module, because it speeds up the development process, or the speed up the testing process. You don't need to add that. When you say run this test case or run this recording, it will automatically change the communication channel. So you as a developer do not need to do anything on it. So yeah, we tried just to make it as simple as possible for these things. Good, we have tested it now. Yeah, probably they would not agree on that it's a good test, but we can then start our transport. And we are internally using the file export, the TPZ for the directory objects, or for the repository object. For the directory, we will use the web services, because it contains all the different things that we need. So now we can see we've created two transports. One that is the directory, the repository objects, and it will just see based on this ICO what are all the objects that is involved in this, and will transport it also in multiple packages. You can go in here, you can simulate what this change would mean compared to what the information that we already have. You can send it to approval and approve it. Again, I'm also approve on this landscape. So you can specify when you're creating the landscape who is able to approve this. Yeah, and let's just take this one. And here we have our communication channel. Here we can see that once we're doing yeah, we can change the name in when we import it, and then we can see here all the non-transportable objects, what they are, what the values are. And I think that is probably the only thing that you may not be able to see, what are the non-transportable objects in custom adapters, because they have not, we don't know what they are, and we don't have a good way to fetch it. So the only way is to create an element that will pass these adapter values and add it to it. But yeah, you can make changes to it. You can make changes if you're changing the service name. You can also do it up here. We can simulate what this change will mean if we put it into production, or move it. What will be changed based on the current model or the new model. So if we made changes to these adapters, we'll be able to see it here. We can send it to approval. It will validate to see if the adapters are is actually running, or to see if you've filled in all the passwords and stuff like that. And we're hoping to add some more to that process. And then we can send it to approval. We can approve it. I just want to decline it. But basically it will be the same process no matter what you're doing here. So that is it, and then you can go into the ticket again. We cannot resolve it because the transport is still in process. We still have the report that is also giving us the information about this specific this specific ticket. What are the ICOs? What are the test cases? How did our test go? So yeah, sometime on some of our system we do have some challenges with cache updates, but initially we started just making a lot of changes, but I think now we have made it to a fewer number of communication channels, so it will not update all of the communication channels at the same time. In here you can also see, no, we cannot test the adapter module if they exist on the target system. I guess that would be possible, but we know obviously what type of adapters you have on that system, but we don't have the link, and that will show you this is what's changed, because yeah, it's transported a different way. I guess at some point in time we could probably also hook it into that and allow you to transport adapters or modules on it, but I would assume that you're not making that many changes to the adapters. But I guess what we could do is we could actually just allow you to say, okay, we've created this issue, I've added this is the, I know that this ticket involves this adapter module, and therefore it will also add test cases where this adapter module is being used. So that would be an improvement we can make that makes it possible to test the impact of changing an adapter module, and I guess that would make a lot of sense. Yes, so once we're updating this, we're just calling the directory API to create the objects. When we're doing modifications, in sometimes we're using the directory API does not give us passwords. So if you have module parameters with password, we are not getting those. So instead we're using the NetWeaver administrator, no, the developer studio API to make that modification, but that's just so we don't lose the password. Yeah, so the way that would work is you would be able to see, so you have this thing about outsourcing, how this tool will help you do that, is that you will see whenever someone is doing the transport, you will be able to see what are all the objects that they have changed. You can go in, view all the versions of this, how this has been changed, so you know specifically what they've changed and see if that follow your naming conventions, your normal processes and everything like that. So it will help you understand this. It will help you to see, have they done testing, have they run these different things. So that is what I believe as governance for CPI. In this process of where you have the validation, I'm also assuming that at some point in time we'll try to add CPI lint, so it will do some extra validation. Does this is it able to see these different kind of things? That makes sense. So it will see when an adapter is not being processed or anything like that. Yeah, could be interesting. Yeah, and so the benefit also of using the Figaf module for this is it will only save messages. So you'd say the next 1,000 messages, I want to record those. And that means if it's not in that 1,000 or it has processed 1,000, the overhead of this module is really limited because it don't need to persist anything. It will just process it and forget about the module, and that really speeds up the processing of these things. Good. Oops. I can see the time's running. Hope, yeah, you had fun. Let me just go through this. Yeah, change management takes time. You can see these different things. For development, we do have some abilities to automate the development. So with CPI or API management, it will put all the things into a CPI or a Git repository. And with this Git repository, you will then get some Gradle plugins, and what that will allow you to do is actually edit these things really simple in that format. So getting started. So the way you can start it is you can run it on a laptop for POC. You can get started at something like 5 or 10 minutes. Download the tool, start it up, log in, and then you can add a license key. You can connect it to the agents that you want, and you can either do one of the different things it's able to do. Obviously, in real life scenario, you want to run it on an enterprise grade server, on a real database, possibly in Cloud Foundry or in your Azure environment, whatever makes most sense for you. We also have a cloud instance running if you are just using for PI and CPI. The Git is not really supported there, or has some challenges there. So licensing, if you just want to test, it is 10,000 euros per year. For, I think it's like 100 ICOs and iFlows. If you want DevOps, this is the full package with the testing, the governance, transports, and all these different kind of things. It's 15,000 euros for also, I think it's 100 ICOs. And then if you expand this, it becomes more, and there's there's discounts the number of the systems you have. So the interfaces we're counting is only the one in your development system. So if you have a development system that's deploying to some other ones, it works in that way. And for the cloud version, we start at 5,000 euros a year. I guess that is a small change for 40 iFlows. I don't know how the Azure DevOps and the Git portion works, but so the way the Git workflow is that it will take the content from your CPI system, put it into Git repository. In there, you can edit it in your developer studio. Then you can upload it back directly into CPI. You can then run it and test it and deploy it and see how it works. And then you can do your transport in the Figaf tool. So the roadmap, one of the things we're working on right now is to enable secure testing. So you will not be able to see payloads fetched in productive environments. I know a lot of people have really sensitive data there, and we'll just try to hide it. And this is really good when you have external employees working. They will just be able to see, we have run this test, that this specific element is different, but they will obviously not be able to see what the payload is, who got 50,000 data. So that is if you're not able to anonymize all the data. We're working also on transporting the CPI packages. We have this API for tickets, and then we're considering if we should create a PI to CPI migration and how that would work out. So we saving money on this integration process, makes it a lot easier to run these things. So time for Q&A. You have been really active. That's really appreciative. So thank you for that. If you have any other questions, just put them in to the chat, and I'll try to answer them. Or if there's anything I missed, then do let me know. But yeah, so far, thanks for all the questions. I will, after Q&A here in 2 minutes, I will just show you how you can actually download, install, try it out, and start using the Figaf tool. Good. Okay, cool. Good. Anyone want to hang around? Thank you, Walter. So let me show you how you can get started. Yeah, so I just want to show that it does not take... if we have development systems, 10 QA and productive systems, how do we license that? Yeah, let's see how that works out. Let us get some more information on that. But normally we don't care about the number of QA systems you have, but just the iFlows that you are transporting and managing. Good. Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Gary. Yeah, and obviously it also depends on how many iFlows, how big an organization you have. But so the what do you mean on SLA of the support tool itself? Oh, so if you just want to use the support tool itself, I think you can get that. It is 3,000 euros a year per agent you hear. Oh, I didn't have a question for you, Walter. I guess in that case, it will only count the one in your central development system, and then it will not care, and then you'd have 10 different routes to the different system. Okay. So yeah, if the support model does have any SLA or how it works, but yeah, you can buy it separately. So pricing is, or initial pricing, I guess, is here, where you can get the support 3,000 euros yearly for an agent that it's connecting to. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So let me just show you how you... Yeah, ask. Francis, yes. I know you're set up, so it's a little more complex, and let's have a chat on that, how we can do that, because yeah, what I wanted was good. Yep. But I hope you saw that this was something that will be useful. Good. So let me show you how you can get started. So you start up here, you sign up. Please check that one. Then you will be sent into here. So documentation is only in Excel, but obviously you can. I don't know if we can expose some of the APIs to it, or you just wanna, for the documentation part, if you just wanted to expose it internally and show it how it works out in other document formats. I have no idea how those works and what they can do and what makes sense. We've just tried in the Excel, just take the content that makes sense. Maybe we can take that content in an XML format and deliver it to third-party systems. So if you sign up here, you will get an email notification with a link to a license key. What you'll simply go to download. you will download here the latest version. You will download the bootstrap file, and then we will just create a folder here. Oh. Keep. So now I put these two files in. Oh, just a sec. So here we have the two files I download, put them into a separate folder, and I'll just edit this just to check if everything is run. Notepad++. If everything is anything we need to change in it, and I think that is okay. So obviously you just need to check this, and then you can run it. Hopefully run anyway. It's a bad file that's been downloaded, so obviously it's a little challenging. Let me just get my license key. So once you have downloaded that, you can then go to localhost 1889/ERT. Obviously, depending on the performance of the system, it can take a little while to get started. On your laptop, so default user is super user, password default. So that's log in with that. Then we can go to our agents, and here on our agent we can then add a new agent. First thing is we go to the license. So once you sign up, you will receive an email with your license key, and let me just get mine. And this license is valid for 30 days. So let me just get it here. Oh, just a second. Let's see if this is valid still. No, that's not valid. Alright. So now I have my license key, I have validity dates on this. We can go to our agents, we can add DPO. In a lot of cases you can actually use your own user for this, so there's no need to use standard user or the agent. So and I just need the URL for the SAP server. So that's that. Time zone, GMT. We got this one again. So obviously the P4 can be different depending on what you have. In general, I guess if you just want to check it out and you don't want to install the module, use this SAP logon system. You will use the web service, and if that one complains, it will say, hey, this does not work out. We can set synchronize repository, and then we'll say when we choose synchronize, we don't want to do that. We can enable message pooling, that doesn't matter. So now we have created an agent. We can log in to this agent. Let's just do it up here. then so here we'll synchronize, and then it will download all the different repository updates of this and see what's going on. What do you mean with the adapter message monitoring web service? Yes, yeah. So that's the standard approach. On older system, this was not exposed as a web service, so we also have web scraping, but it is not ideal to use that. And obviously, if you have a large system, this can take a long time to do, and yeah, slow communication. And here we're just downloading the icons of it. So it'll take a little while. Of it, we can go in here to our support tool. If we want to set up the support tool, we can manage consumers. We can specify if we have created one. I cannot remember. So if we have created a consumer, that's called Daniel. So you can go into all these. It'll say, hey, we need to do some polling. And then that's actually all you need to do polling on a web service of this. Okay. When we're doing polling of these different things with it, we have a number of different connections on it, but I guess it can be specified how many concurrent connections you want to have in this processing. I didn't know there was a hard limit, but I guess it also depends on the number of messages or the system landscape, something like that. But yeah, if there's a large amount, then yeah. And that's also why I think the other one, the EDI module, is a better one if you want to use it in real scenarios, because then you don't need to save this as a specific user. So up here, we should then be able to see our messages. So get our synchronization results. So it is still synchronizing. Sometimes it's getting some errors, and then it just want to check all the different objects that is involved in this processing. Yes, all the full team needs to get access to it. Obviously, for proof of concept, you can run it on your laptop, but in real scenario, you will run it on a server that the full development team will be able to access. So that's a little easier for them to handle. And if I wanted to set up a CPI agent, it is also pretty simple. So it's just here. So what you'll do is you'll take this URL. You will take your username. Just get it. The place to get it is anyway in here. So here we got my user. And we will have this as the map host where we can trigger runtime messages in. Guess this should not be there. 3. that. Then it makes sense. Enable monitoring, enable Git integration with. So if you select that, you need to put in a Git repository, user, and branch. Let's wait with that. Message polling, if it should fetch messages automatically, and if we want to have automatically synchronization. So let's see how that works. So here you have the option to do test configuration, and that's useful to see if everything works as expected. And we can see we got API access, so users is good. So now we have all tracked here, and for CPI we'll just do our synchronization. And yeah, depending on how much you have deployed on it, it will take a little while to do that. But yeah, once it's doing that, we can also go in and set our monitoring. So for CPI, we will manage consumer, we will select and yeah, we can follow along in the alert. And then when you start it like this, it just use an internal database. It's good for proof of concepts and trying it out, but obviously, yeah, get a real database that works for your productive scenarios. And I should be able to select here. So now we got this one. We can then create. So we can select. We can test with different OData filters what we want to do. We can also set the alert up on the processing. So we'll save here. And let's see if we'll pull the alerts. And obviously right now we don't have any rules, so it's just using the default rule, and that means everything will be triggered or handled with the default rule. And I can't remember, it will go back and check out all the different old alerts that you have in the system. So I guess that will take, at least for the CPI, it will take a little while for it to run. So if we go back, let's see if it's done with the synchronization. So now we can actually do a test of this. So if we test it's called faster CPI here. So if we want to go here, we can record messages. 3, we'll just take 1, save. Request licenses, so it will just request our license for what we want to do with this. And so now it hasn't started yet. If we select here start, it will switch the Cyflow into trace mode, and with that we will then be able to send messages into it and download the messages and run these yeah, so if you're using the trial, obviously we hope that you will buy it, so we do offer support on that. And there's also, once you start it up, you can access the documentation here. Here's the user manual, and we're updating that and adding more features on it so you can get started. In this in the location you get the data in, there's also here, once you sign up, there is learn how to use it. Here you can see how you install it, what you do for configurations, what are the different things that we have here to manage all of these anonymization, advanced testing, stuff like that. So there's also some good resources in that perspective. So we can now pull it, and we can see that the progress. It is in progress. And yeah, so we can see we got all 27 messages. We can then create this as a test case. And now we've created a test case, and I don't know how long time we've spent on this, but yeah, as you see, it was pretty simple to get started running all of these different things in just one go. And we can run this test case. Let me just show you that. So run DPO. Oh, that does not make sense on here. So we can see all these last results. We can pull these. Cool, everybody. Thanks for your feedback and comments. Cool, cool, Philip. Let me know if you have any questions. Want to see more? I'll try to put this or the next demo of whichever becomes better. But yeah, thanks for being on, and I hope you learned something that was useful. You saw what it can do and how it can help you. Yeah, I'll stop the demo now and show you, yeah, what it can do. So thanks for watching. If you have any other questions, either drop me an email, write them into the chat, or this. Yes. Cool. Thanks for watching.